Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Today Clara is under the spotlight. So we're going to start off with some very serious questions. So Clara, cats or dogs?
Oof. I love cats, but I'm deadly allergic to them. They're probably still cats. They're just adorable.
Yeah.
They're evil and also amazing.
It's worth the allergies.
It's worth it.
It's worth it. Tea or coffee?
Again, love both, but there's a time and a place for coffee, and the time and place for tea is just all the time, any place, so probably tea.
Now this one might cause a bit of drama. Apache or Domino's pizza?
Oh, Domino's.
Great. Okay, so we're going to go into our first question is, Clara, how did you come to be a Christian?
Yeah, so first of all, my testimony is nothing to do with me and everything to do with Jesus. This is something we love to remind people of because it's not a story about how we took the moral high road and how we became this great person, and it's nothing to do with that at all. So I totally think I had a new idea of how to approach my relationship with God when I was really bored a few months ago and just randomly went on a meal with my friend. Never done that before. We went on and put into the shared interests Christian, thinking, we'll find a new Christian friend and it'll just be good fun. So we join on and this guy immediately asks us, "Are you a Christian?" We're like, yeah. And then he's like, "Why?" And in that moment, you're like, okay, we're clearly not here to have a chat about, we are going to talk about Jesus, but we're not coming from the same point of view here. So from that point, he starts talking about how he's really into evolution and science and all this great stuff. And basically he's trying to use that to disprove God. But I mean, we're not even going to get into the science versus faith argument today, but I think they complement each other beautifully. So I was trying to use this to explain to him why I don't think that the fact that, you find these fossils from this many years ago and all this sort of thing, I don't think that disproves why we have God. I just graduated a scientific degree. And there's so much in that. I look at nature and there's so, it really answers the how for me. I studied optometry, so it's all about eyes, and we learn how it works. And I did biology, and I know how, plants grow and how this and how that. But what science doesn't give me is the why. It just doesn't answer why do all these things happen. Why are we, thinking humans with emotions and a conscience? And why do we love? Why do we fear? Why do we have moral right and wrong? Why is there truth in the world? There's just so many things here. It doesn't explain to me why every single flower in the world is unique, why all the leaves have a different pattern on them. There's no evolutionary advantage to those things, it's just beauty. The sunset, you can explain the density of the air and why it happens, but why does the sky light up in all these beautiful colours? Science just doesn't give me a why to that. I just think, the whole concept of beauty, there has to be someone greater out there that came up with this. Why do we even think it is beautiful? Why does our brain work like that? So I think Christians a lot of the time, including me, have this attitude of approaching their testimony very apologetically if you grew up in a Christian home. So it's I grew up in a Christian home, I've always known God was real, live a happy life, bad things happen, but I always knew Jesus was there. I think as soon as we say that, so many people switch off because they're can't relate. I wasn't born in a Christian home. That's where our similarities stop here. But I then realised this, our testimony has nothing to do with the fact I grew up in a Christian home, because your faith is what you make of it. You can be born in a Christian home and completely walk away from it. You can be born in a completely atheist family and grow up to love Jesus and serve him. And it's not about how many times you go to church. It's not even about how many times you pray, because we are not religious. And if you come from a non-Christian background, you're probably I thought you were a Christian. How are you saying you're not religious? We are not. It is not religion, it's relationship. It's all about faith, and it's all about walking with Jesus. And how I became a Christian, I remember specifically, I was at Holiday Bible Club. The theme was pirates that year, and they were talking about where you store your treasure. Is it in heaven or is it on earth? And there's this verse in Matthew that says, don't store up for yourself treasures on earth, money, relationships, jobs, cars, whatever it might be, any earthly things, there's no point storing up treasure there because you can't take it with you when you go, and one day that'll be it. You'll leave the earth wherever you're going, and that's it. So it says store up for yourself treasures in heaven, where they can't be destroyed, where they'll last forever. And it said the greatest gift, the greatest treasure that we have is our relationship with Jesus and what he did for us on the cross. We believe that we are flawed human beings. Anyone watching this, do you think you're perfect? You might think you're a good person or better than the person beside you, but you can't say you're perfect. Have you ever told a lie? Have you ever thought jealous thoughts about someone? Have you ever wanted something that wasn't yours? Have you ever looked at a guy or a girl and wished you were with them? And all these things, like, none of us can say that we have never done anything wrong in our lives, and those are sin, and they are flawed, and they're a result of the fall at the start of the Bible, which we read when Adam and Eve were the first people in the world, and they sinned because they thought they knew better than God. And we all think we know better than God sometimes, and as Christians we still do. So what do we do when we have a perfect God who's full of everything good and everything amazing in the world, and then we have us who are just inwardly, there's nothing good in us, like nothing at all. All the evil in the world comes from people. Whether you're Christian or not, you have to admit that there's bad in the world, and it's all to do with humans. You might think it's a lot of it's to do with other people, not you, but a part of it is to do with you because we've all done wrong things, and it's to do with me. And I'll be the first to say I am so far from perfect. So how do you unite a perfect God with imperfect humans? Something has to bridge the gap, and that was Jesus. And he died on the cross, and he took all of our punishment on his shoulders, and then we can have that relationship. And that's where I choose to store my treasure now, in that relationship with him. So yeah, it's a very shortened down version of how I came to know God. After hearing that night and hearing how much of a relationship Jesus did want with me, I rushed straight home, was in the bath, and literally said to Mum, I need you to tell me how to pray this prayer right now, because I know that God wants me in heaven, and I want to be his friend as much as he wants me to be his friend. He could come back before you get this shampoo washed out of my hair, so let's go do it right now. And I became a Christian right there and then, so yeah.
Clara, could you tell us about a time that you really had to rely on God?
Yeah, so I would say a lot of hard times have come in my life, but I would say most of them are a result of me neglecting God and pushing him out. And I could easily fill an hour talking about all the times that I've turned my back on God, but he never ever turned his back on me, and he doesn't on anybody, and he keeps chasing after us even when we keep running away from him. But one thing in particular I would say was I was at the point in my life where I was the most shy teenager ever. You wouldn't believe that now, and I often think that people in my life are like, really? Like, you stand up in front of people, you're happy talking in front of crowds, like you're like outgoing, whatever, but I really was so shy. And I started to just idolize the concept of love and like attention from other people, because I was neglecting God. And like any neglected relationship, I just kind of forgot the things that really mattered, the values that I held deepest to me. I forgot my identity, which was as a daughter and child of God. So I started looking for love in other ways from friends, like getting attention from other people in my class. And then I was like, oh, maybe it's like romantic love, maybe it's just like getting any attention that I could. And that felt like, okay, now I'm noticed, maybe that gives me identity, maybe that gives me value. The fact that people go, oh yeah, she's good at this, or oh, you know who would be good to do this job with us, Clara, and like that sort of thing. And I just felt like that was giving me a purpose. So I was like, where do I serve? Where am I good to fill a void that it can only be filled by me? Like, we all want to think that we're special. We all want to think, I never would have admitted any of these things to myself at the time, but that is essentially what I was doing in that moment. And then it came to the point where I realised as the people I had in my life weren't that good for me, and they were leading me further away from God, if anything. And being stuck in that moment and forgetting that my true identity is a daughter of the King. I've been chosen, I've been redeemed, I'm his. That's what he promises us in his word when we turn to him. And I had to turn around. I had to admit that, God, I'm wrong, I'm sorry, I don't know better than you. And I thought I did, but it's so false. Like, you infinitely know better than me. You designed this whole world, you created me, and you know how many hairs are on my head, and all these things, and he's just so good. So I had to lay down all my mistakes and just trust him and say, God, my life is in your hands, and no matter whether I go on to be wildly successful in the world's view or not, I'm not living for that, because those things are going to fade away, but you won't, and I have you forever. So as soon as I turned back to him, I just noticed all these good things start coming back into my life, and with that, he did bless me with great Christian friends, and I got more involved with church and all these amazing things. But yeah, that was definitely a time that I learned that, yeah, I need to rely on God more and rely on myself less, because we're so weak, but he is so strong.
And then finally, Clara, do you have any top tips for people watching at home?
Yeah, so there's this well-known kind of paraphrased verses of the Bible called the Father's Love Letter. I'm just going to read out some of it now because I think it's so amazing. It's an intimate message from God to you, whoever's watching, whether you know him or not, whether you've been a Christian your whole life or an atheist. This is to every single human on this earth, because you've been chosen, you've been designed beautifully, you've been made to be exactly who you are. You're not a mistake, you're loved, you're valued. And this just sums all those things up. So put in your word, put in your name when I read mine. It says, Clara, you may not know me, but I know everything about you. I'm familiar with all of your ways. Clara, the very hairs on your head are numbered. I made you in my image. I chose you when I planned creation. You were not a mistake, for all your days are written in my book. I've been misrepresented by those who don't know me. I'm not distant and angry, but I'm the complete expression of love. And I just want to lavish my love on you, Clara, because you're my child and I'm your father. I'm the perfect father. Clara, my plan for your future has always been filled with hope, because I love you with an everlasting love. When you're brokenhearted, I'm close to you. One day I'll wipe every tear from your eyes. Jesus' death was the ultimate expression of my love for you. I gave up everything I loved that I might gain your love. I've always been father and always will be. My question is, Clara, will you be my child? I'm waiting for you. Love, your dad, Almighty God. So those are paraphrased verses from the Bible. All things that God has sent to you, and that question at the end, will you be my child, is what I had in my heart when I gave my life to Jesus, and he's asking you the same question today. So my top tip is to say yes, I will be your child. And if you're sitting there thinking, I still don't even know if God's out there, I don't know if he's listening, I don't know if he can hear me, I don't know if he exists, I don't know if I'm here by accident, or whether what we're saying right now is just complete nonsense. I know in my heart with absolute certainty that it's not, and I want to tell you that, because every single person listening, we care about you and we love you, whether you're a colleague, whether you're a friend from school or uni of ours, whether you go to our church, no matter what it is. And even if we haven't met you before, like, we just want everyone to know, because we know that the price of not knowing Jesus is so severe, and it's eternity, and that's just not worth it for anyone. I wouldn't wish it upon a single person on this planet, no matter what they've done, no matter who they are, because none of us are perfect. So just say yes. If you don't know he's there, call out. God does answer prayer. So even if your prayer is, God, can you hear me? Just pray it. Just say that, and he will listen to you. He will answer when you call out to him. So there's this theory that says, basically, imagine I have a bunch of friends around and I need to take the dog out to the garden to go to the toilet, and we go out and I see a snake in the garden, and then I'm like, oh dear, and go back into the house, and then one of my friends is like, okay, I'm just gonna go out, I'll bring the dog back in for you or whatever, and they go out and they get bitten by the snake. They come back in and say, there's a snake out there, it bit me, and you sit there and go, I know. Like, what's your friend gonna say? Why didn't you tell me? And that's exactly how I feel about telling other people about Jesus. It's not often well received. People don't want to be told that they're not the king of their own life, that they can't do whatever they want and say whatever they want and think whatever they want. But that is actually, like, I know where that takes you, and it's just so much hurt and pain, and it's eternity separated from God, which you might not think is a punishment, but trust me, I know it is the worst thing that could ever happen, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody. So that is why I want to tell you, whoever's listening, about Jesus, because it's like going out and the snake being there. I know that the price is so severe for that, and I don't want to be stood on the last day when Jesus comes back, or whenever I die and go to heaven, or whatever it is, and for people I love, whoever it is, or even people I haven't met, just because you're a human, like, we love all people because God has made you individually and beautifully. I don't want to be stood and for you to turn around and say to me, Clara, why didn't you tell me that I needed Jesus? That's exactly the same idea. So that's why we want to tell you, Jesus loves you and you need to turn to him.
Thank you very much, Clara. There's a lot to reflect on there. I won't lie, the first time you told me about that why didn't you tell me thing, I actually got quite emotional. But yeah, no, there really is a lot to think about. in your testimony there. So thank you all for watching this video, and remember that you can go onto the Instagram account and watch the rest of the interviews that are taking place this week. Also, if you do have any questions, remember that every day this week we're posting a Q&A box onto our story. So if you have any questions on what Clara said or what anyone else has said throughout the week, do make sure to ask them there and they'll be answered later on in the week. So yes, thank you for watching, and we hope to see you again soon. Bye.